So welcome back to Hustle Front. Starting a business is not easy. So whether you're starting that business on a full-time basis or on a part-time basis or what we call side hustle, it is important you identify a business that will consume you. By this I mean a business that will use your strengths, your skills, and your passion. So here are 6 steps on how to go about that. In this video, you shall be covering the first 3 steps. And as you go through the steps, I don't expect you to figure out everything at the beginning. Some things will unfold over time. They say clarity comes when you begin. A driver of a vehicle is able to see about 200 feet or so ahead of him at night, but he can drive thousands of miles. So as you begin this journey, I encourage you will go as far as you can see, and I believe you'll see further once you get there. Step number 1 is stop and get bearing or get direction. Modern life is so busy with a lot of distraction in terms of technology, media, and all that. People never get time to sit back and ask themselves, what they really, truly want to achieve in this life. We never get to ask ourselves what is working for us, what is not working for us. So it is important, you get to sit and ask yourself, where are you going? What do you want to achieve? What truly matters to you in this life? In this step, I encourage you to do 2 things. One is that create the right mindset for starting a business. They say thoughts are things. So whatever happens inside here will manifest itself in your physical environment. So if you don't have the right things here, definitely even in your physical environment, things will be hectic. At this point, you may want to change some of the beliefs that you've been told about business in the past. Those negative beliefs, you may have been told business are risky. You may have been told that you're not the kind of person who runs business, or there are certain people who are privileged. They're the only people who start businesses. So all those, a compilation of all those negative beliefs, you need to relearn, you need to break from the past, do away with them. Because without the right environment, without the right community, that seed that you're trying to plant will not germinate. Next thing you're supposed to do in this step is simply do an internal audit, or what we call a SWOT analysis. So what are your strengths? What are you good at? So what are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities available in your environment? What are your, what are the threats within your environment? So you need to understand what you're good at. So because they say the only way we can connect with the world is by understanding self. So if you understand yourself, it is easier to understand others. It is easier to connect with your environment. To understand oneself, you can use 2 approaches. One is the thinking approach. So this is where you just sit somewhere, reflect, introspect, meditate, pray, or any other method that will help get deep in your thoughts and get to understand what you truly are. Who are you? You've been with yourself for some time. You've been engaging in some activities. So you do an analysis and try and figure out what are your strengths, what are you good at. So the second approach is what I would call an activity-based approach. So this is where you expose yourself to different activities and, as many activities as possible, and analyze how you're feeling. Do you enjoy doing them? Do you hate them? So simply engage in as many activities as possible and see how your mind and body is responding to some of these activities. Of course, over time, you'll find yourself enjoying some activities more than others. So over time, if you do an analysis, you'll get to see you're being attracted to certain activities more than others. So I think that is where maybe your purpose or your strength or your passion is. Again, here you can go further and use tools such as Johari window to get to understand self. And you can also do online tests such as, on passion, on personality, get to understand what is your personality. Different personalities match with different careers. So it's good to understand also your personality. And again, you can do tests on strengths. So with a combination of tools, you get to understand self. So by the end of this step, you should have an idea of what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses and what are the opportunities within your environment. And again, what are the threats within your environment? Step number 2 is generate as many business ideas as possible based on the understanding that you have gained on step 1. You've done an internal audit, you've discovered some strengths that you have. So the question that you're trying to answer here is simply, what can you offer the world with your strengths? Come up with as many ideas as possible, and when you're listing them down, just do that. Do not think of how you're going to achieve them. Just list them. Do not overthink. Do not be realistic. Because what happens when you start becoming realistic, you start, shutting down your creativity and start thinking of how you may lack ability to achieve some of these ideas. There are several techniques you can use to come up with as many ideas as possible. One of them is 20 idea method by Brian Tracy. So simply pick a piece of paper, write 1 to 20, and start generating ideas based on your strength or based on understanding of self, the things that you think you can offer to the world and change lives. You realize that once you start writing them, the first maybe 10 may be easy. Writing them down will be easy. But the moment you start writing from 10 to 20 becomes difficult. And now you're starting getting deeper into self. You're getting deeper into thinking, and you're getting the best out of you. So you don't have to pick 20, you can pick any number, you can pick 100 and come up with as many ideas, but the method is the same. So technique number 2 is what we call eulogy technique. I'm not sure how many people would want to use this one because most of us don't like thinking about death, but it will happen anyway. In this technique, you imagine that it is your last day in this life, you're about to die, and you're in your deathbed. So you've lived, a great life, a prosperous life behind you. So what does that life look like? What are the things that you would have wanted, to achieve? What kind of people would be around you? And then you come back to the present and, try and come up with ideas on how to achieve such kind of a life that you've imagined. So come up with as many ideas as possible here that will help you achieve that life that you have imagined. Of course, your life may not end up that way, but at least that method will help you, come up with ideas and focus on the things that you value in life, whether it's people, whatever you value. You will be able to identify if you use that method appropriately. At the end of this step, I expect you to come up with as many ideas as possible that you can offer to the world and add value to people based on your strengths, your skills, your passions, and such. Step number 3 is examine those ideas or possibilities and narrow down. So in step number 2, you came up with a huge list of ideas, and because you cannot do everything, you need to sieve. In that list you will realize that some ideas will seem more attractive or exciting more than others. So if you are to rate those ideas using a scale of 1 to 10, you rate some higher than others. So our goal here is to come up with at most 5 attractive ideas, not beyond 5. So make sure your number, if you have 100 ideas, narrow down to 5. As you narrow down the ideas or possibilities, you can use the following questions to come up with the 5 or less. Actually, 5 is still a lot. You can still, narrow down to about 3. So less is better. Even 1 is the best. So whatever idea you're going to choose, make sure it answers all the 3 questions. So question number 1, is it something that you enjoy doing? Is it fun? Is it something that you can do even without earning any money, without being paid? Is it something that you would enjoy doing for the rest of your life? You should answer such questions. So the reason I'm saying this is that we spend a significant amount of time working. More than 50% of our life is spent at work. So if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then it will be drudgery. It will be very, very difficult to report there on a daily basis. The second question you're supposed to answer is it something that you're good at? Do you have the abilities? Do you have the skills, whether natural or acquired, to perform very well in this task? And if you don't have the skills, do you have a way of acquiring those skills? The reason I'm saying this is that Emerson some time ago wrote about the law of compensation. So he said there are 3 factors that, determine how much money you earn in this planet. So factor number 1 is the need for what you do. Factor number 2 is your ability to do it. And factor number 3 is the difficulty in replacing you. So if you're to work on factor number 2, the ability to do it, if you're so good in whatever you do, factor number 1 is taken care of and factor number 3 is taken care of. it will be very, very difficult for people, to replace you in whatever you do. So ability is very, very important. So whatever idea you're going to choose, make sure you have ability to do it. And if you don't have that ability, you have a way of acquiring that ability, because without that, then you'll not be competitive in whatever you'll be trying to achieve. Question number 3 you're supposed to answer is, ask yourself, whatever you have chosen, is it going to add value, in people's lives? Is it going to change their lives? Your idea must offer solutions to people's problems. So remember, your success will be determined by the number of problems you solve. So if your idea offers solutions or solves problems to a big number of people, then your chances of success are very high. The intersection of these 3 questions is where your best idea should fall. You can use a Venn diagram to, indicate what I'm trying to say. So look at the Venn diagram. Here you can see one circle contains what you enjoy doing. The second circle has, what you're good at. And that circle has, what will improve, lives of people. So the intersection is where your best idea should fall. Your best business idea should answer all those questions. At the end of this step, you're supposed to come up with at most 5 ideas that you enjoy doing, you're good at, and those ideas that can add value to other people's lives. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time as we look at the last 3 steps. So remember to subscribe, like this page, leave a comment if possible, and hit that notification bell so that you get to know when we have a new video in place. See you next time. All the best.